Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Cameron Bailey. I'm the CEO here at TIFF, and it is my great honor to welcome you to an evening in conversation with Salman Rushdie. Thanks so much for being here. A few acknowledgements before we begin. I want to thank you if you are a member or a donor or another supporter of TIFF for championing our mission to transform the way people see the world through film. It truly is your ongoing support that makes what we do possible. I also want to extend a thank you to our major sponsors, RBC and Visa, as well as our major public supporters, the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, and the City of Toronto. And last but certainly not least, a big thank you tonight to Knopf Canada for partnering with us on this event. Our In Conversations with series welcomes groundbreaking artists for a conversation about their work, their passions, and their creative processes. And tonight our special guest is Salman Rushdie, who is one of the most influential authors of our time. His previous novels include Midnight's Children, Shame, The Satanic Verses, The Moor's Last Sigh, Quichotte, all of which have been shortlisted for the Booker Prize, a collection of stories, East-West, a memoir, Joseph Anton, and more. His many awards include the Whitbread Prize for Best Novel, which he won twice, the PEN Allen Foundation Literary Service Award, the National Arts Award, and more. He's a member of the American Academy of Arts and Letters and a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, and he is a distinguished writer in residence at New York University. He's a former president of PEN America and the recipient of the PEN Centenary Courage Award. I think we know why. His books have been translated into over 40 languages, and just 3 years ago in 2023, he was named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people of the year. The Booker Prize-winning author joins us for a discussion about his latest book, The 11th Hour, his lifelong commitment to artistic freedom of expression, and his special connection to the literary community right here in Canada. Some of those individuals who helped bring Salman to Toronto for a PEN Canada fundraiser at the Winter Garden Theatre in 1992, a legendary event, are here with us tonight. But before we turn it over to our event host, a few housekeeping items. The conversation will run about 90 minutes. We'd like to ask everyone to please stay in your seats after that, once the onstage discussion has ended, so that our guests can exit the stage safely. And our front of house team will let you know when you can start exiting the theater. And now to kick off tonight's event, we're pleased to welcome Deepa Mehta as our host. She is an internationally renowned filmmaker whose previous works include emotionally resonating political and award-winning films such as Sam and Me, which was the first time I met Deepa, the Elemental trilogy, Fire, Earth, and the Best Foreign Language Oscar nominee, Water, Bollywood Hollywood, Heaven on Earth, Biba Boys, Funny Boy, and of course, Midnight's Children, the epic adaptation of Salman's Booker Prize-winning novel. She's also directed projects for television, including episodes of the Netflix original series Layla, Apple TV's Little America, and an episode of Showtime's series Yellow Jackets. Her latest film, I Am Sarat, a documentary, premiered with us at the Toronto Film Festival in 2023 and has since screened at festivals around the globe and is now streaming on CBC Gem. Deepa is currently in pre-production of a feature film called Forgiveness. I'll be talking to her about that at some point soon. And it's based on the autobiography of Mark Sakamoto. Forgiveness is set to film this fall. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Deepa Mehta and Salman Rushdie.
All right.
Okay. Welcome, Salman.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a while. So, should we just start like we said
Let's
we
just-
would?
let's
Can we
just-
start it in Hindi?
ठीक है हिंदी में बोलेंगे.
ठीक है, हो जाए. Salman, would you, okay, getting serious, will you please read from the 11th Hour?
Well, I thought I would read just a little bit, just the beginning of the first story in the
Okay.
collection. The first story is a story called In the South, and it's set in the city that I still call Madras, but is officially called Chennai. And it's about two horrible old men who I'm very fond of, as it happens. Hang on, I have to put on my reading glasses, excuse me. I actually met one version of these horrible old men when I was in Madras. And I thought what I'd do is to duplicate him, to have two of them being horrible to each other instead of being horrible to everyone else. And that's what the story is, kind of. They're called Senior and Junior. The day Junior fell down began like any other day. The explosion of heat rippling the air, the trumpeting sunlight, the traffic's tidal surges, the prayer chants in the distance and the cheap film music rising up from the floor below, the pelvic thrusts of an item number dancing across a neighbor's TV, a child's cry, a mother's rebuke, unexplained laughter, scarlet expectorations, strong coffee, a green wing flashing in a tree. Senior and Junior, two very old men, opened their eyes in their bedrooms on the fourth floor of a sea green building on a leafy lane, just out of sight of Elliot's Beach, where that evening the young would congregate, as they always did, to perform the rites of youth. Not far from the village of the fisherfolk, who had no time for such frivolity. The poor were Puritans by night and day. As for the old, they had rights of their own and did not need to wait for evening. With the sun stabbing at them through their window blinds, the two old men struggled to their feet and lurched out onto their adjacent verandas, emerging at the same moment like characters in an ancient tale, trapped in fateful coincidences, unable to escape the consequences of chance. Almost at once they began to speak. Their words were not new. These were ritual speeches, obeisances to the new day, offered in call and response format, like the rhythmic dialogues or duels of the virtuosi of Carnatic music during the annual December festival. Be thankful, we are men of the South, said Junior, stretching and yawning. Southerners are we, in the south of our city, in the south of our country, in the south of our continent. God be praised. We are warm, slow, and sensual guys, not like the cold fishes of the north. Senior, scratching first his belly and then the back of his neck, contradicted him at once. In the first place, he said, the South is a fiction, existing only because men have agreed to call it that. Suppose men had imagined the earth the other way up. We would be the Northerners then. The universe does not understand up and down. Neither does a dog. To a dog, there is no North and South. And in the second place, you're not that warm a character. And a woman would laugh to hear you call yourself sensual. But you are slow. That is beyond a doubt. This was how they were. They fought, going at each other like ancient wrestlers whose left feet were tied together at the ankles. The rope that bound them so tightly was their name. By a curious chance, which they had come to think of as destiny, or as they more often called it, a curse, they shared a name, a long name, like so many names of the South, a name neither of them cared to speak. By banishing the name to a single initial letter, V, they made the rope invisible, which did not mean it did not exist. They echoed each other in other ways too. They were of similarly wiry build and medium height. They were both nearsighted, and after a lifetime of priding themselves on the quality of their teeth, they had surrendered to the humiliating inevitability of dentures. but it was the unused name, that symmetrical V, the name that could not be spoken, that had joined them together for decades. The two old men did not share a birthday, however. One was 17 days older than the other. That must have been how senior and junior got started, even though the nicknames had been in use so long that nobody could now remember who originally thought them up. V, senior, and junior they had become. Junior V and senior V forevermore. Quarreling to the death. They were 81 years old, and if old age was to be thought of as an evening, ending in midnight oblivion, then they were well into the 11th hour. "You look terrible," junior told senior, as he did every morning. "You look like a man who is only waiting to die." Senior responded, nodding gravely and also speaking in accordance with their private tradition. "That is better than looking, as you do, like a man who is still waiting to live." I'll just leave it there. Anyway.
Thank you, Salman.
Yeah, I mean, it goes on like that.
Since we are TIFF, I thought it was really important that we start off with the fact that you loved films as a kid. And you saw Indian ones, and you loved Shri 420.
Shri 420, well, 420, I know in certainly in the United States, it has something to do with weed. But in India, it's Article 420 of the Indian Penal Code refers to fraud. So if you call somebody 420, you're calling them a fraud or a fake or a phony. So Shri 420 is Mr. Fake, Mr. Phony. But it has, of course, it has this very famous song in it.
You have to
I
quote
can't sing it.
Come on, you can, Salman.
No, you don't want to hear me sing.
You know, I think we really do. Okay,
But I'll say it.
Okay, you say it. Okay.
I mean, it's a song which actually defines what it is to be the Indian, really. It says, "Mera juta hai Japani, ye patloon Englistani, sar pe lal topi Rusi, phir bhi dil hai Hindustani." Which I translated in the opening of the Satanic Verses.
Yeah.
When Jibreel Farishta is falling from the sky, he sings this song while falling. And I had the English translation by yours truly, which goes, "Oh, my shoes are Japanese, these trousers English, if you please. On my head, red Russian hat. My heart is Indian for all that."
Yeah.
That plurality, I think is one of the beauties of India.
Well.
And I began that somewhat controversial novel with that uncontroversial statement.
No, but there were other films that you saw. You grew up in Bombay seeing. You said that really made a difference. And
well, I liked. I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of Bollywood. Mm-hmm. I liked the serious Indian cinema.
Before it was called Bollywood.
Before it was called Bollywood, but it was just called Bombay Talkies. Mm-hmm. I was from Mother India, with the great Nargis. But I, really, in me, Indian cinema is like Satyajit Ray, Mrinal Sen, Ketan Mehta, Shyam Benegal, those serious filmmakers. And I was lucky enough that I got to meet Mr. Ray. I was in Calcutta actually on book tour for Midnight Children.
Really?
Yeah, and one of the people in the British Council, an Indian woman in the British Council, was related to Satyajit Ray. She was a distant cousin. Mm-hmm. And she said, he's filming in the backwoods on the road to outside Calcutta. Would you like to meet him? I said, would I like to meet him? So we went, and he was filming what became The Home and the World.
Ghar Bari. Ghar Bari.
Ghore Bari.
Yeah.
And he had found this old landlord's, zamindar's house in the middle of nowhere. You went up on the trunk road and you turned off onto this dirt road and you went like 2 hours in. And this old landlord's house was there and he was filming there. So I got to spend a couple of days with him and watch him work. And the way he directed was may be useful to you to know.
Okay, thank you.
He would gather these are the best actors in India. You know, this is Soumitra Chatterjee and Sharmila Tagore and all these amazing. And he would gather all the actors, and he would say, "You stand here, you stand there, you stand there." And then he would have the script with him, and he would perform all the parts. He would jump from position to position, acting all the parts, while these great actors stood and watched him. And then he would say, "Do it like that."
Amazing.
And because he was Satyajit Ray, they all said, "Yes, sir."
And they did it.
And they did it like
they were
that.
pretty good.
And it was not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all.
So there's a tip.
Okay, thank you. I'll remember that. No, but then there was Wizard of Oz that really informed your work.
Well, what happened was, I mean, I was 10 years old or something when the Wizard of Oz came to Bombay. And I went to see it, and it struck me like a Bombay movie in English. Mm-hmm. You know, it has wizards and magic
and drama
and inadequate grown-ups and I mean, really, it's a film about how all the grown-ups are inadequate. Even the wizard is a fake.
Yeah.
You know, and the kid has to grow up because the grown-ups are so incompetent. Anyway, so I went home and I wrote a story, which was originally called Over the Rainbow.
Oh.
Very, nobody's ever used that title. And it wasn't about somebody going. It was not about the end of the rainbow, no pot of gold. Mm-hmm. It was about a boy like me walking down the street in a city like Bombay, and finding the beginning of the rainbow, going up from the sidewalk, arcing, and usefully had steps cut into it.
That helps, yeah.
So he goes over the rainbow, and he has magic adventures, which I've forgotten all of them. And I wrote it down, and my father said he'd get his secretary to type it. So he got his secretary to type it. And then he said, "No, I'll look after it, because if you look after it, you'll lose it." So he looked after it, and he lost it. Thus proving the inadequacy of grown-ups. So anyway, that was my first bit of writing. And it was after I saw that film.
But there's that, you've said in I think it was in Joseph Anton that these two films, the classical Indian films, Juta Hai Japani, and even Wizard of Oz, really informed your work. Identity.
If you grew up in Bombay, the movies are in your blood. Yeah. Because the movies are everywhere. You buy a newspaper, the first 2 pages and the last 2 pages are about news. The inside 24 pages
yes, that's
are
true.
about movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everybody's obsessed. And we had this when we were casting Midnight Children. We had some enjoyable encounters with superstars.
Yes, we did. They were strange.
They were very strange. We can't tell these stories. They're too wicked.
We can't name them, that's for sure. Yeah.
Although they're very recognizable. Anyway, one of the most enjoyable parts of the whole project of Midnight Children was meeting these demigods and watching them behave like demigods.
Yeah. I know. Remember? Yeah.
Amitabh Bachchan had very good samosas.
You remember the samosas everywhere, Salman. Samosas, you love samosas, right?
Good samosas.
Good samosas. He had them last night at our house, and he said they were good, so that's a big thing. Thank you.
Deepa Mehta samosas, how can you not like them? Especially when you're doing a gig with her the next day.
I know. So I'm really, what I love about you is the fact that, considering everything that you've been through, you are one of the funniest men I know. How does that work?
You don't know many funny people.
No, that's not true. See what I mean? I'm trying to be serious, and there you go. Yeah.
Well, look, funny is good, isn't it? I mean, speaking as a reader, not a writer, I don't really respond to books that have no sense of humor. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean they have to be jokes, but there has to be some note of wit or comedy, something which isn't just. There are some very great writers that I really can't deal with because there's no joke, no humor at all.
Which are the ones that you can deal with?
Oh, I can deal with lots of writers, but the one I'm
But the
thinking,
ones who are funny,
the one I
yeah.
can't think, I mean, the really great writer that I really can't be doing with is George Eliot. No jokes. I mean, not even a flicker of a smile.
That's true.
I mean, super great writer, but
No humor.
no humor. And so I respond as a reader to books that have some kind of wit or eccentricity or zaniness or etc. So, and I guess I tried to become that kind of writer.
Not entirely. I mean,
Not completely.
yeah.
Sometimes I'm serious, but I try and cut those parts out.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
No, but I mean, the writers with whom I'm mostly associated with all have that quality. A lot of them are. I mean, then a lot of them are writers in translation. I mean, of course, if you think about Russian literature, you think about Tolstoy and Dostoevsky. But I like Bulgakov. I like The Master and Margarita, which is a novel about the devil coming to Moscow and making trouble. That was my kind of book. And I like. I mean, I remember when I was a student at Cambridge, going into a bookshop and finding the first translation into English of a collection of stories by Borges. I'd never heard of Borges. This book called Fictions with this weird-looking dude on the cover. And I just opened it because he looked so odd. And I fell into the book. I just mesmerized by it. And eventually the bookstore owner came over to me and he said, "Are you going to buy that book?" And I said, "I did." And I went away and read it like 6 times. And that helped. Even though I don't think my writing is actually that like Borges, but he shows you things that are possible. In this collection, actually, there's one story which I think kind of
Which
is
one?
like Borges.
Which one?
The story called Oklahoma
Yeah.
is kind of somewhere between Borges and Kafka. So that's not a very large
No,
space.
I'm just thinking of that. Okay, really? You were 13 when you left Bombay for rugby, which was a big school, I guess, in England.
Yeah, I mean, my parents were still in Bombay, so I
Yeah.
would go back. But yes, that's when I went to boarding school in England.
And I love that. I have to read this to you. He said that he figures there are 3 things that made him feel like an outsider at boarding school. One was be foreign, because he was a foreigner. 2 was be clever, which you were.
Bad mistake.
And the third, which I love, is that be bad at games, which I totally relate with.
Yeah, no, and you could get away with 2 of them.
Not with the games.
So if you were foreign and clever, but you were wonderful at cricket,
Yes,
you were forgiven.
yes.
If you were foreign and bad at cricket, but you weren't very clever, you were forgiven. If you were clever and bad at games, but you weren't foreign, you were forgiven. But if you were foreign and clever and bad at sports, you were screwed. So,
Oh, gosh.
I don't know if that's still true, but that was true in
No.
1961.
No. When I went to boarding school in Dehradun, which is up north in India, it was an Indian boarding school, but our headmistress was British for some reason, Miss Linnell. And I was not good at games at all. And I didn't, I read when you were supposed to be playing games. And I read Oscar Wilde, which was really bad because he was gay, I was told. And but the worst thing was that I was not fair. I was brown. So it's a bad mistake. I couldn't do anything about it. Yeah. And there's a cream called Fair and Loveliness, which doesn't exist or didn't exist then. Otherwise, I would have used it.
Fair and Lovely.
Or something like that.
Yes, Fair and Lovely.
Yeah.
It was a skin lightening thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the awful things about India that there is such color prejudice.
I know. It's still there,
in those marriage ads that appear in the paper.
Yes.
If the bride-to-be is fair-skinned, they always say so.
I know, yeah, they do.
And if she's dark-skinned, they never say so. Mm-hmm. And if she's kind of in between, they invent this word for her, which is wheatish.
Yes, yeah, a wheatish complexion.
A wheatish complexion, which is not completely fair, but not completely dark.
Yeah.
So this prejudice is everywhere.
No, it's still there.
Still there.
Yeah. Hindustan Times, which is one of the major newspapers, has about 4 pages every weekend of marriage ads. And it's all filled with wheatish complexions.
Yeah, all the kind of, degree from MIT,
Yeah.
etc. But unfortunately, wheatish.
Yes, yeah. And no photographs of the wheatish ones.
No.
No, no, no. Talking
Anyway,
about,
this is the culture from which we spring.
I know. It's lovely to get into Hindi with Salman because when we're with lots of people, we just speak in Hindi. And I don't know how Rachel and David feel about that, but you guys are
Secret
okay
language.
with that? Yeah, secret. Yes.
Actually, it's not so much a secret language anymore because too many of us are around.
That's true.
So
That's true. That's
you
true.
think you're saying something secret, there's 6 people on the bus who know what you're saying.
I know. But talking about films,
Yeah.
I have to talk about this Pakistani film, which I think really, I think what you said about it at the end really changed my life, and I think perhaps made it very something very important for you. After Satanic Verses was released and the fatwa was on, and 3 years while you were underground, so to speak, Pakistan made a film, and it was called International Gorillas. Gorilla. Gorilla. That's plural for gorillas. And
Meaning not animals.
not yes, gorillas. And it was about all these people who were really strong and Islamists, and they were all hunting Salman Rushdie and how they catch him and they kill him. And one of the things you said about the film, which made me laugh, was you said that, well, it irritated you a bit because you were always portrayed wearing the stupidest safari suits in different colors. And I thought, okay.
Yeah, the camera would pan down the safari suit. There was a lot of safari suits.
I know.
Pink,
Pink, you
fuchsia,
said. Yeah.
sage colored. So really disgusting. The fashion insult. I felt very keenly. And also, by the way, they didn't kill me. There were rotating Qurans in the sky,
Oh, I didn't know about that.
from
Yeah.
which thunderbolts would come. So
Oh my God, it sounds like Trump's thing.
actually killed by the Almighty. So there's dignity in that.
Yeah.
But I thought it was just a terrible film.
Yeah. Yeah, as you said. I saw a bit of it, by the way. And,
I saw all of it.
Yeah, you saw all of it. You poor thing, yeah.
No, there's a scene of unintentional comedy in the film.
Which one?
Where I am being protected by what is clearly the Israeli Secret Service. So on this kind of like Hawaiian island,
Oh,
with
that's
palm
right.
trees
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff, and they capture one of the international gorilla, and they tie him up between
Oh, I
two
remember
palm
this.
trees.
Yeah.
And then I am there because I'm this sadist monster, and I have a whip
And a safari suit.
and a safari suit and a bottle of whiskey.
Oh, good.
And so I have them swinging the whiskey and using the whip and torturing him. And then eventually I say to the Israeli Secret Service, I say, take him away and read to him from the Satanic Verses all night. And he goes, oh my God, no, sir, anything but that, sir. And it's not supposed to be funny.
But I mean, can you imagine you sitting there and you're seeing this, and the Brit censorship board, when it was going to be released in England, said that they would ban it because they were afraid that they'd get sued by Salman and by the distributors.
It was very defamatory. But
And when Salman heard about this, that the film was going to be banned in England, he wrote a letter and said, absolutely not. And
no, I said, if you think I'm going to sue you, this letter is to inform you that I'm giving up my legal rights,
yeah.
and you should give the film a certificate because I'm not going to move against it. So they did. And this amazing thing happened, because it got put into a big cinema in Bradford in the north of England, which is a big Muslim population. Nobody went.
Yeah.
Why? Shitty movie. and whatever people thought of me doesn't matter. They didn't want to spend their $10 on a crappy movie. So it actually taught me a big free speech lesson,
That's what I was getting at.
which is
yeah.
trust the audience.
Oh, I
Trust
was going
the
to be more
audience.
philosophical.
Let people make up their own minds.
Okay.
Let it be shown and let people decide. Trust the audience. And the audience voted with its feet, and that was very good
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a quote from you.
for me.
Yeah. Tell me if it's.
No, I mean, I hope I still think
And I didn't get it from AI, so
No, all
it
right.
should
It's probably by
okay.
me.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. You said that most public condemnation is from unread, uninformed critics. Maybe that is how it has to be. If you actually inform yourself, it's harder to take up that kind of extreme polemical position.
Yeah, I mean, I used to get upset about the fact that most of the people attacking the Satanic Verses had never read it, and were proud of never having read it. And then I thought, but if you look at the history of literature and the various books that have been persecuted, it's always true that the persecutors have never read it. When James Joyce was accused for Ulysses of being a pornographer, it was quite clear that nobody read it because, James Joyce, great writer, his ability to arouse sexual excitement.
It's like zero.
Probably not his strong point. And, when Nabokov was accused for Lolita of being pro-pedophilia, nobody could have read this incredibly moral book, in which case even the pedophile is aware of his own evil. And so then I thought, okay, that's good company. Because I think reading a book is a very intimate act, and if you actually take the trouble to do it, you can't have a simplistic view of it anymore, because books are not like that. I think it's hard to burn a book that you've read.
Yeah, you said that. Yeah.
I think in the famous Nazi incineration of books, they were burning Thomas Mann and Kafka, etc. And I don't think they'd ever opened a book by Thomas Mann or Kafka.
Why do you think people do that?
Because books are dangerous. Because they don't tell. What I mean is, I think people who want to control the narrative, which is what tyrants and dictators and authoritarian figures always want to do. They want to control the story. It's like this, and if you don't think it's like this, we're going to come and get you. Writers can't be controlled in that way, because writers have their own narrative and their own way of seeing. And if you're trying to dominate the narrative and you've got these annoying people saying different things, writers don't have any armies, but tyrants always come after them. Why did Franco kill Lorca? Partly because he was gay.
Yeah.
He was a lyric poet, but he was very early in the Spanish Civil War. They killed him. But my kind of optimistic twist on this is that while writers are kind of sometimes vulnerable, literature is not. So yes, they killed Garcia Lorca, but we still have Garcia Lorca, and the Falange is gone. Even in the Roman Empire, Caesar Augustus got pissed off with Ovid. We don't even know why.
Yeah.
It's not even revealed what was it that Ovid said or did that annoyed Augustus Caesar. But he cast him out of Rome and sent him to live for the rest of his life in a sort of little village on the shore of the Black Sea. And he spent the rest of his life writing these letters, pleading to be allowed to come back to Rome. And he was never permitted to do so. He died there. But still, we have the poetry of Ovid, and the Roman Empire doesn't exist. And so that's what I'm saying is the work survives. Literature, the text is unbelievably strong. I was talking about The Master and Margarita.
Yeah.
That was never publishable during the communist period. It was only published in full after the fall of the Berlin Wall.
I didn't know that. No.
And because it was censored and heavily censored and banned and etc. Now it's a masterpiece. And so, yeah, books, I have great confidence that books survive. Writers, not so much.
Yeah. And, I think I know. Satanic Verses was first banned in India. That's how it started, right?
It started, yeah.
Yeah. And I was in Delhi, when I was in Delhi about a year ago, I went to my favorite bookstore in Khan Market, Bari Sons, and
They had some.
they had, no, it was fascinating because the whole window was filled with Satanic Verses. I took a picture, I sent it to you,
Yes,
I
you
think.
did, but it was unbanned in the most comic way.
Well, how was it unbanned?
Because when it was banned, there was a government order that was issued to forbid its import and publication.
Mm-hmm.
Some individual in, I think, Calcutta, completely private individual, don't even know his name, decided to challenge the ban in court. And it went for years getting pushed backwards and backwards. Eventually it came up, the government couldn't find the ban. They couldn't find the document. And eventually the judge said, if you can't find the document, we have to conclude it doesn't exist. And therefore the book was unbanned. It was unbanned because
I thought it was some awakening of some spirit
no,
in
they
India.
just lost the document.
Oh, shit. I'm so shocked.
And then everybody started stocking the book and there was no trouble at all.
No, none at all. I mean, it was filled. All the bookstores in Delhi were filled with.
No, and elsewhere
Yeah.
too. But it was just a ludicrously magic realist ending to the story. That we can't. Sorry, we passed a law, but we can't find it.
So the magic realism started early.
Yes. Well, I mean that's the thing about when people say magic realism,
Yeah.
they only hear the word magic. They don't hear the word realism. Whereas actually magic realism is realism.
Tell me more about it, because
The world is no longer realistic. Hadn't you noticed?
Yeah, not with Trump around. Yeah, yeah,
I mean the world has become insane.
yep.
And so realism is an inadequate tool to describe the world as it is. You need something more extreme than realism, hence surrealism. Surrealism is realism.
And where does the magic come in?
Well, it makes it more enjoyable.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Yeah. No,
I mean, Bosch used to say about the Garden of Earthly Delights, this amazing surreal painting of, which he calls ironically the Garden of Earthly Delights. It's a portrait of hell. But he would say, I'm telling the truth. This is the truth. This is the world.
yeah.
It's a pretty pessimistic view of the world.
Yeah,
But he felt that the surrealism was simply another way to tell the truth. And that's what I think.
yeah. Well, it makes you question it, for sure.
Yeah. Or just give you another way of looking at it. Supposing people did secretly have horns coming out of their heads and they just hide them under a hat.
I'm glad you're not wearing one. Yeah.
And I-
No, but, I just, was thinking about you being the fatwa, the edict that was announced after Satanic Verses by the Ayatollah and execution. But this is 3 years, and then you came to Canada,
Yeah, not within 92.
92.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I mean, you'd won the Booker Prize, and you'd written Shame. You were so popular, and then suddenly this happened, and then you weren't seen for 3 years.
Not much.
God, that's a lot, Salman.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't as completely unseen as that. I mean, I did occasionally.
Well, maybe
but
Canada talks about it because you're
wasn't
so
having
proud of it.
I wasn't having a very normal life.
No,
Yeah.
no.
And then I came to Canada and everything changed.
Everything changed, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a clip that
you have a clip.
that shows a bit of that, and I'd love you to see it. And I hope this is enough time for whoever it is who's doing it. And it's really important. I was really moved. It's based on a film that was done at that time on the occasion that you were here by Avi Gunnison and produced by Sterler.
So I remember that.
You remember that? Okay.
I have to say that Bob came backstage to say hello. He couldn't stay for the event, but he came to say hello, and we reenacted the kiss.
And you have some more kisses.
Oh, I
from-
was just
you have
saying
to-
that I have some important kisses in my life. That was one.
That was one, yeah.
There was some years later, I had to present an award to Leonard Cohen. And so I have been kissed by Leonard Cohen. Many women would be very jealous. Yeah. So, and then the third one, an unseen kiss. I had a small cameo appearance in an important film called Bridget Jones's Diary. And so there's this party scene. And at one point, I was supposed to say hello to the Hugh Grant character. And we were supposed to be old friends. So he says to me before one of the takes, he says, do you mind, in the next take, do you mind if I'll give you a hug and I'll kiss you? And I assumed that he meant on the cheek. But when they were shooting the scene, he kissed me squarely on the mouth. And I was very surprised. And unfortunately, the scene was cut out of the film.
Oh, no.
So my first screen kiss ended up on the cutting room floor. These are my important kisses. The rest are private.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, oh, really? Okay.
These are my public kisses.
Something that I'm really intrigued by and is that during the Fatwa, you were so prolific.
Well, I had a lot of time.
No, but I mean,
I think I was saved by being a writer, you know, and also I think that I was a writer of books. But I think if I had been a playwright, it would have been difficult for somebody to want to put on a play of mine because they would have been, you know, theaters are vulnerable spaces. So if I'd been a film writer, nobody would have wanted to employ me, you know. But if you're a writer of books, you sit quietly in your room and you write your book, you know. And I think the fact that I was able to go on working was a very important part of getting through that time. So yeah, I mean, I started off writing a children's book because I had my older son, at that point, my only son, was about 10 at the time of the attack. Yeah, and he had said to me, why don't you write a book that I want to read? And I said, well, I'm just finishing this book now. Let me finish this book and then I'll think of something for you. And of course, this book was the Satanic Verses. And so then it became difficult. And then I thought, maybe I should keep that promise. You know, because also, of course, what happened to me also happened to him. You know? His father suddenly disappearing into goodness knows where, and the television news being full of hatred. So I thought I'd better write something. So I started writing this book for him, and after I'd written a couple of chapters, I thought, maybe I should just test it out on him. So I said, you read these pages. So he read them, first couple of chapters. And I said, what do you think? And he said, yeah, Dad, they're good. And I noticed a certain lack of enthusiasm. So I said, really, they're good? And he said, yeah, Dad, I'd read them. Some people might be bored.
It's the Haroon and...
I said, what do you mean some people might be bored? And he said this wonderful thing. He said, it doesn't have enough jump.
Oh.
Jump? I thought I could do jump. Give me that back. Look. I took it back and rewrote it and showed it to him again. He said, yeah, now it's fine. And that ended up being Haroon in the Sea of Stories.
Yeah. What was a jump? I have to ask you. Give me an example of the jump.
It just means get on with it.
Okay.
Get on with it. Tell the story. Stop dilly-dallying.
That's a good thing.
Get on with it.
Yeah.
Get on with it is very good advice.
Yeah. Now I know what jump means. That's great. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But you can have your own instinctive relationship with jump. It doesn't necessarily only have to be one thing.
Yeah.
It can be, Martian landing on the lawn.
But also the ground beneath the feet. Yeah.
Well, the ground beneath came later. Yeah, that was after the Moor's Last Sigh. But everybody was very confused that I wrote a novel about rock and roll.
I was, yeah.
What's he doing writing about rock and roll music? Yeah. Well, I grew up with rock and roll music. And also the thing about that novel is that it's a novel which takes place in 3 worlds. It takes place in India and England and America.
Your 3 worlds, yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted something that knitted it together. And I thought, well, this music was the first global cultural phenomenon. And it existed at a time when global mass media didn't exist. Now everybody knows everything in 5 seconds. But then this music spread across the world very, very fast. I can remember, the first record I bought when I was, 11 or 12, 11 maybe. There's you know, the famous music shop in Bombay called Rhythm House.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
And I went there and I bought Heartbreak Hotel. And there it was, you know.
Yeah.
And my mother kept trying to tell me that Elvis was a bad influence and that I should listen to Pat Boone. But of course, the definition of rock and roll is that your mother doesn't like it. And so it became, that definition applied everywhere in the world. The mothers of the world didn't like it, and therefore their children did.
Yeah.
And it spread like lightning across. So I thought, here's this global phenomenon that this boy in Bombay is listening to All Shook Up and Heartbreak Hotel at the same time that his contemporaries in England and America are listening to it. You know? And it unites the world. So I thought that the use of music was a way of telling the story of these characters in a way that was unified, even though it took place on 3 continents.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and there is just a faint possibility of a movie.
Really?
Somebody has an option.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yeah, but one of the things I know about the movies is that option doesn't mean shit.
I know. You just found that out, didn't you?
I've learned everything. Nothing means anything. I mean, we would go and look for money. We'd go and smile at the money when we were trying to raise the money for Midnight Children.
I know. It was hilarious, right?
And these people would, especially Indian film financiers,
Oh, it was so funny.
They would say to Deepa, Deepa ji, we revere you. You are, for us, the ideal film. We will support you to the last rupee that we have. And they would say something similar to me. And then not 1 rupee would show up.
and not one did ever.
Not
I mean,
ever.
really. Yeah.
So I understood that when they were doing this, they were essentially saying, hello.
No, and then get you to sign books too.
So I learned a lot
Yeah.
about movie bullshit,
Yeah.
which is much bigger than book bullshit.
Is it?
Yes, more money.
Hussein, can you tell us that? He says
Hussein
no.
knows.
Hussein knows. Yeah.
But, you know, it was very educational, raising the money for Midnight Children.
It was tough. I mean, Hussein was the first one in, and
Yeah.
then it's slowly, yeah.
We got there.
We got there. No. Oh, but I have to tell everybody, Salman, we were having dinner together, and Salman made the mistake of asking me, because I was talking about how I still do Shalimar the Clown, and how much I loved it, and, you know, it'd be great to make a film of it. And then he looked at me and he said, if there was one book of mine that you would want to make a film of, which one would it be? And I said, without a beat, I said, Midnight's Children. Then I said, holy shit, what have I said? Because I said, Salman, he said, okay. I said, but Salman, the rights will be so expensive. I mean, talk about Midnight's Children. And he said, no, I'll give them to you for $1. Can you imagine?
US dollar.
Yeah, US. But Salman, come on, that's huge. It was, I'm not kidding, guys. Isn't that impressive? It really is. No.
Well, I just thought, you know, if you're not going the studio route, you know, if you're trying to make independent film, and you ask for, you know, $1 million for the rights, the film's not going to get made.
No,
You know,
no.
And I thought, let's make the film, and maybe there'll be a bit of money on the back end. And
Yeah.
there was.
There was.
A bit of money.
Yeah, a bit, very little, but I think, David, you did a very good job. I mean,
Yes.
it
No,
was,
but the point was just to get it going.
it was, and then it was fabulous. But what I really appreciated about you, I'd ring him up in the middle of the night and say, I don't know about this line, Salman, and he'd say, go back to sleep. You know, but it was so fabulous because you trusted me implicitly.
No, even when you were shooting the film in Sri Lanka or wherever you were.
Sri Lanka, yeah.
And, you know, the time difference is quite dramatic.
Yeah.
And she would call me at obscene hours and say, you know, we're shooting this thing and there's this one thing that so-and-so says and I don't think you need it. And in the end, I had to say, Deepa, you're there shooting the damn film. If you want to cut the line, cut the line.
Yeah.
You know, don't call me at 3:45 a.m.
Really?
You know who used to do that?
Who?
I was very friendly with the wonderful American writer Michael Hare,
Yeah.
who most famously wrote the best book about Vietnam, Dispatches. But he also he was very friendly with Stanley Kubrick, and he was very friendly with Francis Coppola. And he wrote with Kubrick, he wrote Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, okay.
And he said, and Kubrick was living, Michael was living in London at the time, and Kubrick was living there too. So there's no time difference. But he said Kubrick had no sense of time. He would call you at any time of the day or night and want to talk for 3 hours, and you had to be available. So he'd call you at like 4:14 a.m. And you had to be up and say, yeah, of course, Stanley. And he said it was the most difficult thing he had ever had to do was to work with Stanley Kubrick because he never got any sleep.
Well, at least I was in good company, no?
Yeah, the other thing that Kubrick apparently never did, another tip for you.
Okay. As you can see, I'm getting lots of tips today. Yeah.
He never went on the set.
Well, neither did you.
No, he stayed in a caravan with lots of video
Oh,
screens.
that's right. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And he would look at that, and there would be his first assistant on the set saying action and cut. But he would never leave the caravan.
Why?
So another tip.
Okay.
But and then with Apocalypse Now, what happened with Michael was that when they made a first rough assembly of the film with all these big scenes, and they kind of hadn't bothered to shoot the linking narrative. So the film made no sense. It was just big scenes. And they hired Michael to write the voiceover narration,
okay.
which in the end Martin Sheen speaks in the film.
Yeah.
And that pulls the story together.
Yeah.
So I learned a little bit by watching Michael at work with these great geniuses.
Well, you wrote the voiceover for Midnight's Children.
And when which I didn't want to do.
I know you really didn't want to.
Yeah, and you made me do it.
Yeah.
She's a director.
I know.
I am only a writer.
What to do? What to do?
If the film is good, it's the director's fault. If the film is bad, blame the writer.
Yeah. Really? No. Yeah. Okay, so now this is something that interests me because I'm being Indian and an immigrant and whatever. Is all your books that I read and I have read and continue to read are so much about identity.
Well, I think one of the things about moving from the place where you were born and raised is that it puts the question of identity near the center of who you are. Because you come to a different country, and I've done it twice in my life.
Yeah,
And you come to, and sometimes people are speaking a language that you don't speak so well. People's belief system is not the one that you grew up with. All kinds of things that you take for granted as being who you are. Suddenly, that's not who you are because nobody else is like that. And then you have to make these decisions for yourself about what do you change? What do you hold on to? How do you make yourself new in the new place? And I think that's all immigrant communities everywhere have always had to answer those questions. And some of them answer them well, and some of them answer them badly. But the question is there at the middle of the world. Who are you? And are you going to just go on being the person you were where you started? Because that makes no sense here. Nobody understands you. Or are you going to? What does it mean if you give up things that matter to you? Who are you then if you give up the most?
I know.
So that problem is the problem of migration. And I mean, it's in a way a bigger problem than racism because it's internal. It's existential.
Yeah, you can't protest about it. Yeah.
No.
No.
I mean, it's inside you. It's not something that somebody else is doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I've written a lot about that.
Yeah.
And then moving a second time I know England to America doesn't feel like so far.
It was a big move for you.
A big move, but not so hard because I knew. When I arrived in England at the age of 13 and a half, I didn't know anybody. When I moved from England to America, I had friends in New York. I'd been to New York many times, so I was familiar with the place. So it wasn't such a huge leap. But I didn't know. Actually, truthfully, when I did move around the year 2000, I didn't know if I was doing it for 6 months or the rest of my life. I thought, I'm just going to try it. I've always wanted-
Why did you want to try it?
Because I went to New York when I was a kid, when I was like in the early 70s, when I was like 25. Different city in those days. I mean, broke. There was a certain amount of street violence, so on. But what it was cheap, and therefore young people could live all over Manhattan and afford it. If you were downtown in Soho, it was all painters and writers and musicians and young creative people. And I thought, this is the place. And I always thought, I just want to come and put myself here, see what happens. I sort of had a suspicion it would be good for me.
Was it?
Creatively.
Was it?
Well, by the time I did it, of course, that city had gone.
Yeah.
And New
It was
York
about 2000, yeah.
Yeah, but it was, everything was much more expensive and young people couldn't live in Soho anymore, and etc. But it still had a kind of New Yorkness. And I'm still living there, so it must have worked somehow.
And moving to England, how was that?
Well, boarding school was shit.
Yeah. Oh, you couldn't play games, yeah.
No, but I mean, also, there was a certain amount of racial prejudice and so on. I mean, I remember being very shocked to arrive in England and discover racial prejudice. I thought, me? You mean me? And they did mean me.
Of course they did, yeah.
And so it taught me a lesson.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when I came from a pretty conservative, sort of upper middle class Indian family. So in many ways, I was a pretty conservative, upper middle class Indian boy. But what I learned at boarding school was this idea of being the other and what that meant. And so by the time I left rugby school, I knew everything about racism. Because
It wasn't called racism then, was it?
Well, it was called racial prejudice. But of course, it didn't exist.
Yeah, of course not.
I remember many, many years later, I was, Philip Roth came to live in London for a while when he was married to Claire Bloom. And I had dinner with him one night just before he left to go back to America. And he said, I'm leaving because he said, you know what I can't stand? I can't stand British anti-Semitism. And even more than that, I can't stand that they don't believe it exists.
Yeah.
So if you tell them that it does, they say, no, you've misunderstood. And he said, I'm just sick of it. I'm going home.
And he went home.
And went home and broke up with Claire.
Yeah. I remember when I first came to Canada, friends of my then husband took us to a hockey game or something. I wore a sari. You don't wear saris and go to hockey games, I found out.
No, that's probably true.
That's really bad.
Hard to
It's very
hard to run.
yes, or if to watch in a sari and clap whenever putt or whatever it's called. I was sitting next to the person who had brought us there and talking a bit, and she said, "You speak really good English." So I said, "I learnt it on the plane," and so I was so irritated. So she said, well done. And, there's no sense of humor, nothing about it.
Yeah.
I must say, I wasn't being funny. I was
quick.
really angry.
Yes.
But she believed it.
Yeah, no, we all get that. We've all been told we speak English very well.
I know.
And you know what? We do.
We do. And some of us even write it really well.
Even write it. What language did you write it in? I get that. Did you write it? You wrote it in English. Oh.
Acha.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
I've had that.
Yeah.
I mean, not recently.
No, I don't think so.
But in the beginning, I had it.
But there is such a, what's it called? There's reality, there's magic realism, and there's surrealism, and it's funny, and yet it's sad. It's a combination of all those things, which happens, I think, for me, it really just came together in the first two or three pages. Was it? No, maybe first chapter of Satanic Verses, when Gabriel is going down. It was...
Yeah, I mean, look, books are not... books are not intended to please everybody. You know, there are some people who like that kind of writing. There's some people who don't, and that's fine. If you don't like that, read a different book. You know, but you have to write the way it comes out. You know, I think there's a sense in which you are not the master of your talent; you're the servant of your talent.
Mm.
You know, and I've often thought I'd like to write a kind of quiet, realistic novel in which people fall in love and out of love and back into love and nothing really happens. And I can't do it. It doesn't seem, it seems kind of pointless.
It's not you, no.
It seems pointless.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, obviously there are people who've done it very well. And sometimes I actually envy those writers.
Name one.
Well, William Faulkner.
Okay, yeah.
I also envy those writers like Faulkner who are really rooted in one place and who have deep roots and can play a lifetime. I mean, I once went to Oxford, Mississippi to speak at the university which gets called Ole Miss. And their Faulkner scholar walked around the town with me. And he said, you know, there's the picket fence where the idiot child used to stand.
Oh my God.
And there's the lawyer's office that was an intruder in the dust. And etc. You suddenly realize it's quite small. It's a small town, Oxford, you know, and yet there's masterpiece after masterpiece on every street corner because of the depth of his engagement with the place. And they didn't even like him in Oxford because he was liberal on the race question, and they were all Southern racists.
Hmm.
And I mean, I was told by the same see above Oxford Faulkner professor that towards the end of his life, he'd actually got fed up with Oxford and he was planning to leave, but then he got sick and died, so he never left. And now, of course, he's the favorite son.
I know, of course he is, yeah. They've named the building after him and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this happens, you know, when James Joyce was dying in Trieste, they were so poor that they couldn't, that when he died, that they couldn't, Nora, his wife, couldn't afford to repatriate the body, to bury it in Ireland. And so she went to the Irish embassy and asked them for help to repatriate the body of James Joyce, and they refused, which is why he's buried there. Now, you know, he's Mr. Ireland.
Yeah.
You know, but at the time, not so much.
I was in, I think I told you this maybe, about a month ago I was in Lahore, and one of the places I went to see was the Government College of Lahore, because my father had been there. And as I was walking down the corridors, there's this big building, so beautiful, and it's dedicated to Faiz Ahmed Faiz, who's a marvelous poet, who was banned, and you know, it's strange after all those years, this big building is named after Faiz.
Faiz.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Faiz was the first great writer I ever met because he was a very close friend of my aunt, my mother's older sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think I actually literally sat on his knee.
You lucky guy.
Yeah, well, not so lucky. But he became for me, as I was thinking about becoming a writer, a kind of model because he had two sides to him. On the one hand, he was a political writer.
Yeah.
And got into bad trouble for it. You know, and
He sure
this
did.
famous poem he wrote after partition about this night-bitten dawn. This is not the dawn we dreamed of. You know,
Yeah.
he also, however, was a love poet,
Yes, he was. I mean,
and so many of his verses have been set to music and so on.
but some of them are like a writing, I feel. There's sort of a combination. Mujhse pehli si mohabbat,
Exactly.
mere mehboob na maang,
Yes,
which is about
This
love
is-
and
yes.
yeah.
which translates as, "Don't ask of me, my love, that I used to have for you."
And it's
his love
about-
poems are a little bit, they have a knife in them.
I know. It's like not so lovey.
I'm not sure how great it would be to have that kind of a poem written for you.
I don't know. I don't know. But it is a poem about faith and about your country as well, right?
Yeah. No, so Faiz was, I mean, I think actually it probably begins with Faiz, not with The Wizard of Oz.
Really?
Yeah, as I say, Faiz was the first time I met something that you would really call a great writer.
Check him out, guys. Just brilliant. Fairs,
I mean,
Ahmed
Urdu
Fairs,
poetry
yeah.
is one of the great joys of India,
It really
of the
is,
subcontinent, not just India, India and Pakistan.
Yeah, yeah.
And so maybe you should read Anita Desai's novel In Custody,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
which is about
But don't see the film.
Don't see the film?
Don't see the film.
Because Ismail Merchant not a great
He-
director?
No,
Better
I can't
producer?
say anything. I have to be political. Yes, he's a great writer or a great director or whatever.
Well, he's dead. You can say
Yeah, I
anything
know. He
about
can say, yeah, he's dead. Okay.
it. No, but Ismail,
No, but the book is
the
beautiful.
book is beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the problems with the film, I think, is in the book. It's about an grand old man Urdu poet and a young fan of his who comes
Yeah.
to visit him and discovers that the grand old man is a kind of burnt out lush. And discovering that your idol is a vulnerable human being.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
But
in
it's
the,
the actor that
but
played.
in the film,
Yeah, in
the
film.
age difference is not so great.
No, it was between Om and Shashi Kapoor, I
Yes,
think.
and
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
and whereas
That
it
did
should be about an old man and a young man.
Yeah,
And so it changed the dynamic of the story,
Mm-hmm.
not for the better.
yeah. But check it out too. In
But
custody.
In Custody shows you the enormous place that Urdu poetry has had in Indian culture.
Yeah, and Modi might deny it, but it's still.
But the verses are there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think there's something that. So you're in America, and that's when I first met you, and it was you were all over the place. Whenever we'd go out for dinner, you'd wear a baseball cap. That's all, because you were going everywhere and doing everything and writing, and then Knife happened, and
Yeah.
and have you read Knife? It's just brilliant.
No, I mean, if you haven't, buy the book now.
Yeah, and you can even have it signed by him, so that would be good. No, will you
There-
do it?
I signed some books. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what I loved about Knife was that it's a story about it's real. It's a biography about. Unlike Joseph Anton, it's in first person, so it's really there, and it starts off about this horrific attempt at Salman's life, and ends with a love story. And for me, Knife is about that love story.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. It's about how, to put it simply, it's about how love overcame death.
Can you talk about that? Because I love Rachel, so it's just amazing what she was there for. I mean, this is a brilliant woman. I mean,
Yeah.
a writer in her own right. And just,
Yeah, but what I thought was when I was trying to work out if there was a book to write, I thought, it's quite easy to write about the attack itself, or not easy, but it's not very long to write about the attack itself. That's like 15, 20 pages, that's not a book. So what's the book? And I decided for myself that the book was about three people. And I was one of the three people. And the attacker was the second of the three people. And my wife, Rachel Eliza Griffiths, was the third of the three people. And then I thought, okay, that it's like I'm here, and there's this kind of argument between beauty and ugliness, between love and death, between hatred and love, etc. And I thought, okay, that's a book I can write, because that has a shape. And so I also thought it would be kind of, I hope, pleasantly surprising to people who thought they were going to read a true crime story and ended up getting a love story.
yeah, it is a love story. It's a love story that, I mean, it's like coming out. But I feel that, I don't know, I feel that since that time, I mean, it was a horrific time, and you and Rachel went through, I mean, the whole year or more of recovery, and I'm sure, PTSD even till now. But the love is like all over. It's so loving.
Well, lucky me, right?
Yeah, that's true, Salman.
Yeah.
I hope you're listening, Rachel, wherever you are.
She's over there.
She's there. Okay.
What happened when we got together is everybody in my family said, finally. And so she had a T-shirt made for me which says, finally, which I wear because it's true. Anyway, so yeah, we unlucky in that moment, but lucky in many other ways in life.
Yeah. I mean, This is.
And, you know,
I feel that you changed. I really did.
I changed.
You had changed. You know, the first time I met you, which was I think a year after the attack, was in New York. We'd all, David, you and myself, had gone out for dinner. Met Eliza then too, and I just felt. I just felt you were so loving. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I guess I am, yes. But I,
No, but
I
it's,
think
no,
one of the
it's
things
really
about,
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, one of the things about getting a good look at the end of the story, you know, and then retreating from it, is that it makes you really value the things in life that are to be valued. Like being there, being around still, living, and loving and working, and those, and, you know, your friends, your family, your loved ones, just being with what you most care about becomes more important. And also what you think is, if you're lucky enough to have been given a second shot, you know, to have sort of lived when the odds were that you wouldn't, don't waste your time. Don't mess about. Use the time for what matters. And that's kind of my motto now. Don't waste your time.
Yeah, the 11th hour.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I'm maybe at the sort of 9.5 hour. I mean, you know, there's some people who said, "Are you writing this book as a kind of goodbye?" And I said, "Why would I do that?" Why would I do a thing like that?
Like
I mean,
a hello. Yeah.
yeah, it's more like hello again.
Yeah.
You know? What I did feel about this book was that I was relieved that fiction came back.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
that until I finished writing Knife, I was unable to think about fiction.
Why? Why do you
Just, I
think?
don't know, because there was this thing to deal with that was
Yeah.
sitting in the middle of my head, you know, and I had to deal with it. But almost immediately that I finished the memoir, it's like this little door in my head opened and the stories began to tumble out again. And I thought, oh, hello, how nice to have you back. And so, I mean, really, I think the motto of this book is I'm back. You know, and it's in a way, again, it wasn't planned, but it ended up being a kind of little survey of the worlds that I've written about all my life.
That's
you know?
it. Yeah, it's like the position of Kahani. I mean,
It's like a kind of cliff notes
yeah.
to Salman Rushdie.
Yeah.
I think if somebody's never read anything by me, it's not a bad place to start.
Yeah, well, you read Junior and Senior to us, the son.
A little bit of Junior
yeah.
and Senior, yes.
And-
But I mean, there's stories in India, there's story in England, there's stuff in America.
That's right. And there's a story about freedom of expression.
And
which
there's
is
a little
yeah.
parable
Yeah.
about language
Yeah.
and the damage that we're doing to it.
What damage do you think we're doing?
Well, we're misusing it and destroying it and making it very hard for us to talk to each other because we are using the same words in different ways. And we no longer understand each other, even if we speak the same language. And when language is damaged in that way, it's very, very dangerous for a society. And that's where we are. And I wanted to say that. So that's a story which, I mean, it's a very eccentric little story, but it has that. I don't usually write stories which have author's message.
This one did.
This one actually has author's message.
Yeah.
So,
Why don't you just say a little bit about it so they all buy it?
well, it's called The Old Man in the Piazza, and it's about that. It's about an old man who sits I deliberately don't say where the piazza is, what city, what country, etc., because I wanted to suggest this applies to many places. Anyway, there he is in this little square, sitting out. There's one cafe in the square, and every day he comes and sits there, and he gets a glass of beer and a sandwich, and he sits there and watches the world go by. And the world goes by and goes through different phases, and he's just simply watching. But then gradually he gets sucked into the dialogue and the arguments and so on, and that's not good for him, actually, and it's not good for them either. But what happens in the story is that language also is a character. Language is a female character who comes and sits on the other side of the piazza, being quite irritated by everything that's going on. And at a certain point, she gets furious and she gets up and screams and leaves the piazza. And after that, the language is not in the piazza anymore, so nobody can
Yeah.
talk to each other.
Yeah.
And it's an allegory, it's an allegory of something that I believe to be true, that is happening, and not just in one place. I mean, you're lucky, you're in Canada.
That's
Things
true.
are still
Yeah.
a little bit saner here
It's a lot saner.
than they
I
are
think so, yeah.
in many other
Yeah.
neighboring zones.
We shall not name them. No.
Greenland.
No, there's a lovely quote which I have from you, just 2 lines. It says that I'll just say we would not be who we are today without the calamities of our yesterdays.
It's me stealing that from Samuel Beckett.
Oh. So it isn't really you.
It's really Samuel Beckett.
Oh, shit. I'll blame AI for that, right? No. I really thought it was you.
No, I mean,
But it
I
could
quote
be.
it. I
Yeah,
quote it
yeah.
in the thing, but to be fair, it's Beckett, not me.
Okay.
Also a good writer.
It's not bad, yeah, right. Yeah. No, I think that, are we supposed to be asking questions now? Is that it? Yes, yeah, sorry.
All right.
But Salman, this is something that actually your dear friends, Rick and Louise, both mentioned that out of everything that they're in awe of you, besides your writing and being good friends, is that life seems to be about preserving humanity, and you show that.
Well, thank you. But I think that is the art of the novel. The art of the novel is about telling us what it is to be human. And there's a line of Saul Bellows, which I'll misquote, but he said something to the effect that literature has work to do at the roots of the human race. Why are we like this? Who are we? Why do we behave to each other in the way that we do? What is noble about us? What is weak in us? How do we function? And why do we function in that way? That's the art of the novel, and I've just spent my life trying to answer those questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So we're ready for, are you ready, Salman?
Yeah, somebody else's turn.
Yes. No, for questions, please
Lights.
raise your hand, and we've got a mic. Nobody has any questions for Salman? Guys, this is your opportunity. Come on. Yeah.
As a Canadian, I wanted to hear a bit more about your encounter with Leonard Cohen. You said that you presented an award to him.
Yeah. I mean, there was a period of time when I persuaded PEN America to give awards for lyrics, for songwriting, for lyrics. And in the first year of the award, we decided to give two awards every 2 years instead of one every year, just to make it more of a kind of event. And we gave them to Chuck Berry and Leonard Cohen. And they both came, and they'd never met each other. And it was very exciting. I mean, that first time, forget about the award winners, the jury was so extraordinary. It was like Elvis Costello and Roseanne Cash and Bono and Paul Muldoon and me. And some other people I'm forgetting, but it was an amazing jury. And so we chose Chuck Berry, and Leonard Cohen, making his speech, said a very nice thing about Chuck Berry. He said, basically to say that Chuck Berry started everything. He said, if Beethoven hadn't rolled over, there wouldn't have been room for any of us. And Chuck Berry, when he was getting his award, said he was deaf. So Paul Simon was one of the jurors. And Paul Simon had the job of making the speech in praise of Chuck Berry. And Paul's a very serious person. He'd worked on it very hard. So he was standing there talking, and Chuck Berry sitting like behind him there. And as Paul was speaking, Chuck Berry would say, "Can't hear you."
Okay.
And Paul would speak a little louder. Chuck Berry would say, "Can't hear a word." So Paul kind of staggered through it, and then he put the medal round Chuck Berry's neck, and Chuck Berry said, "I don't want to make a speech." So he went, "Okay." And then he turned to Elvis Costello, who was on the stage, and he said, "Give me your guitar." So he took his guitar and he sang "Johnny Be Good." Not very well. But, he wrote it, so he's allowed.
He can do whatever he wants to.
And then I had to make the speech about Leonard Cohen. And he came up to get his medal, and he was wearing his little hat, and he kissed me to say thank you.
Oh, second Canadian, right?
Second Canadian.
There you go.
Yes, this is my fate. We kissed my Canadian men.
I think we have time for one more question. I can't see anybody.
Thank you. Thanks for that very enlightening talk. I was just thinking while you were talking about magic realism earlier about some reading that I've done on Afro-surrealism that kind of tries to articulate the inherent surrealism of Black life, especially right now in the US, perhaps like the most recent example being Sinners. And so I was wondering, following from that, how much your engagement with magic surrealism has to do with the general unreality of maybe produced by our political order versus your personal experience as an immigrant in London boarding schools experiencing racism when it wasn't called racism. So how those two interplay.
Well, some of all of that is the answer. But I mean, I'm very interested in what's now called Afrofuturism, where African writers are using a leap into the future as a way of understanding the present. But look, what I think is this, if I can just try and do this briefly. The thing that we call realism in the novel is really a product of the 19th century. Until if you look at the literature of the 18th century, it's not that realistic. In the 19th century, there arises what we call it's the high point of realism in the novel. But it seems to me that what that way of writing depended on was a broadly speaking, an agreement between the writer and the reader about the nature of the world. That they had the same definition of reality.
Okay.
And that definition excluded things. For example, in England, that definition excluded the British Empire.
All right.
Which was why England was doing so well in the 19th century, just because it was raping the rest of the world. But it didn't mention that in its books. Now we live in an age in which reality is very fragmented and is very disputed. Different groups, different countries, different cultures read reality in different ways. There isn't an agreement between the writer and the reader about the nature of the world. And when that fragments, so does realism. It doesn't have the ground to stand on, doesn't have the foundation. The foundation of realism in the novel is an agreement about the nature of the world. And when that agreement breaks down, so does the form. That's my view. There are people, of course, who will tell you differently, but they're not here.
Do we have time for one more question? No.
No.
I tried, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, the end.
It's the end.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.